Andy Lou, the Warriors finished Summer League 0-4. Emergency pod. Is the dynasty over? Is it over? First, they lose to LeBron and AD in the playoffs. Now they can't even win a Summer League game. Trade for Chris Paul. Is it time to storm the Chase Center?
I gotta say, I know you're just having a little bit of fun. The Warriors Summer League teams the last few years have been awful. I know Summer League basketball is not great basketball, Sam, but the Warriors put together some really bad rosters. I don't know what it means. I don't think it means anything. Who cares? 80% of these guys not even ever going to make the league. But oh my God, can we get some better guys out there, please?
Is this Kirk and Kent's fault? Are they ruining the Warrior? No, come on, man.
Isn't Kent in charge of it? Actually, I have no idea. But it's a rough watch. Nobody can get to the rim. Nobody can make a shot. Nobody can defend. Their best two guys, Podziemski and Trace Jackson, their highest drafted guys. TJD looked good tonight. We'll talk about it. But man, Sam, I just want better basketball for the Warriors in Summer League. I just want better basketball. I know.
Summer League's the opposite. Houston looks awesome. They better look awesome. They have 15 lottery picks,
Facts.
Brooklyn, same thing. Some other teams. I'm sure the Warriors could do better in terms of finding undrafted guys who might be able to perform in these things. I thought Reggie Perry was okay, but end of the day, 0-4, and I don't really care about that. And honestly, like we all know what we want to talk about. We're curious if Mike Dunleavy's first two picks players. We're curious about the two-way guys. Seems like Lester Quinones and Guy Santos, maybe those guys. Like we're curious about guys who have a shot to be on the real roster when we get to October next year, right?
Yep.
And so let's just start top. First round pick, 19th overall, Brandon Podziemski. I thought today was better, but let's just talk about him in Summer League in the aggregate. Your impressions of him.
Oh, I gotta start. I gotta be the bad guy. He doesn't look great. I think it's obvious that he understands how to play basketball. The passing's there. He makes the right, he tries to make the right play pretty much every time. The only times that he doesn't make the right play are when I think gets caught in the air, right? He's not quick enough. He gets caught by someone. He gets picked or he gets kind of bulldozed a little bit. So other than that, though, I do think if he's ever going to figure out the speed of the NBA game, he's going to be a really good NBA player. The problem for me, though, is watching him and then watching, like, for example, tonight, Cam Whitmore, which is the first time I've watched Cam Whitmore, which is someone I think Warriors fans might have liked. He seems like a really
he went one pick right after them. So
yeah. He looked pretty good. He looked like a guy that belonged on the NBA floor next season. Now, winning player, I have no idea. But he looked like someone that guy's gonna survive in the NBA. It might just be maybe he can't shoot, maybe he doesn't understand the game, like that type of stuff. With Podziemski, it feels like the opposite. Brain's there, body's not. And so it might be a year or two away.
I mean, here's my impressions from Podziemski in Summer League. He was probably the best passer in the entire Summer League. Like he navigates the pick and roll like an NBA player. He's a little slow, but like at end of the day, it's all about the shot. If he can actually shoot 44% from three, which he did in college, best shooter in the draft. If he can really shoot like that, then he's going to have a long career. If he can't get his shot off and he's wildly inconsistent with his shot in the pros, he's probably going to play in a European league. Like it's really that simple. Like it's funny. You can have all the IQ, you can rebound the ball, you can make great passes. If you can't hit a shot, it doesn't really matter. And my overall feel on this is like, look, man, it's a week in Vegas. He looked a little overwhelmed by length. I'm not particularly bothered by it. He's 20 years old. He was probably the most statistically productive player in college basketball. He's not going to play next year. Like he's a point guard. I think the thing that stood out to me is like he is a true point. You
think he's okay? So that's what I taking out what you're saying. Yeah. So you think he's a true NBA? He's going. If he's going to succeed, you think he's going to succeed being a point guard, not a shooting guard?
I mean, I guess it's possible to be a shooting guard, but his best skill is passing. So
Mm,
theoretically want the ball in his hands. It's just like that passing's worthless if he can't hit a shot, right? Like if you
I
can't.
mean, 44% 3-point shooter. I'm gonna assume he's gonna be able to shoot, right? But I'm surprised that you're saying you think he's gonna.
I mean,
end up being
he's
one
going to
side
play
in the NBA?
both guard spots because he's a
Sure,
legit 6'4".
sure.
But I think the thing that stood out to me is like he's not Dante. Like Dante makes
Right,
the extra pass and tries
right,
hard, but he's not a point guard.
right.
Jordan Poole is willing to make an extra pass, but I never thought he was a point guard. I think he's a scorer first. Podziemski operates a pick and roll like a point guard. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just wondering if he can actually punish defenses with scoring because there's not really a role in the NBA for a point guard who can't make a shot,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Or get his own shot. I think is what you're trying because he'll make shots, dude. He'll make shots wherever he goes. I think, but you're right. I mean, if he can't punish the defense by getting his own shot, yeah, I think he's screwed. I also don't think we're getting an answer to that anytime soon.
No.
I know people are angry. I know my texts are blowing up. You know, people, especially this game, because Cam Whitmore looks so good, and people are like, "Oh my god." But it feels like, and you mentioned this earlier, he's not playing. There's no role for him.
Well, it's like
they have 4 guards,
and it's not just that they have 4 guards. It's like
3 veteran guards.
They have 2 first ballot Hall of Famers. You know, like it's like Chris Paul wants to start. And he starts on what, like every other team in the NBA, but like the Warriors are kind of going to be like, it's probably better if we bring you off the bench. Like I think it's pretty clear the Warriors have the deepest point guard rotation in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So he was never going to play this year. They may only have Chris Paul for a year, by the way. You know, like it just based off of the contract and like all the Dunleavy quotes with like, we like the optionality, flexibility we have with him. And also just being like 38 years old, like it's not like they got him for 5 years anyway. So, you know, like if you were to paint a best case scenario for Podziemski, I'm not saying this is how it's going to play out. Your best case scenario is he learns from Steph and CP for a year. He gets a lot of reps in Santa Cruz. And next year or the year after, when they move off of CP3, because it's time, then he takes over as the backup point guard. You know, that's like your best case scenario. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to walk away from summer league feeling like we got the point guard of the future. Like it's hard. Like
Sure.
I saw positives, but it's like I'm not gonna pretend like I walked away with it with like confidence. They got a dude.
Me and you ended up at the exact same spots. I think I was more skeptical, so I think I was probably raised a little bit. Like my expectations were very low, but I did see enough where I was like, okay, I think that he could end up being a player in the league. I think yours were higher, so maybe we ended up kind of at the same level. I find it interesting that Jordan Poole as a backup point guard was never going to work because Jordan Poole is not a backup point guard. He is a bona fide starting guard in the NBA. He is no matter what. He is a starting guard. Podziemski though feels like the CP3 Corey, and then to a lesser extent Corey Joseph prototype, where it's maybe we won't start, but we're going to be in the league for 12 years in Kojo's case, and we're just going to protect the ball, right? You're going to have a 3.5, 4-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. You're going to hit an open shot. You're going to defend really hard because you try really hard. It does feel like Podziemski's floor maybe is that. Whereas, so that might be what the Warriors maybe were looking for.
Tyus Jones as your best case. That's your ceiling maybe.
Versus, I know Dean on Draft was here a couple weeks back talking about maybe a Desmond Bane comparison where he's more of a scorer type, decent defender, but he's scorer type.
Sure.
So got me really excited. So there are 2 options for him versus Jordan Poole, which we talked about, CJ McCollum, Donovan Mitchell type, right? Remains to be seen, but yeah, it is interesting to me that like Dunleavy, dude, don't you dare, don't you dare.
I'm going down like point guards in the NBA and just naming all the white ones. So
Nico Mannion, you forgot Nico. How about this? How about this?
On a roster, but
I'll throw this out for you.
Mike
Dunleavy drafted Jordan Poole. That's what they said, and then now he's the man in charge that takes Podziemski. 2 totally different players.
Yeah, I mean, I think their decision making this offseason, I don't know if it's an overcorrection, but it definitely feels like. I mean, how many different times has Dunleavy said, like, we play a certain way. Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, those guys like to play a certain way. IQ, shooting are like the two most important skills. So like we're going to draft guys who fit that, right? I think to go back to the Podziemski point, like I understand people being like, he looks terrible. What do we take him? Because it's like that sort of thing. I just keep going back to like, look, man, he was the most productive player in college basketball last year. He's 20 years old, and you don't really need to play him this year because the one position you're good at is point guard. The one position you like vet laden with stars is point guard. I'm willing to be patient with him. Particularly since, and we can talk about number 2, particularly since their other draft pick looks like a guy who actually might be a year 1 rotation player with Trayce Jackson Davis.
You think so?
I don't know, honestly, but I think if you look at the Warriors roster, he has an easier shot to get there, right?
Yeah, he might have to be, which is, I don't know, might be concerning.
They got, obviously Draymond, Looney, and Saric are ahead of him in the rotation. But, all it takes is someone to miss a couple of weeks, and it's like, you know what? He needs to get into the rotation. And I guess my question for you is, so first time seeing him for you, I watched a little of him in the Big 12. Like he's a 4-year college guy who's probably the best player in the Big 12. But like, anyway, what was your impression first time watching him?
Total. I mean, looks like a 4-year college guy. I didn't watch him at all in college. I don't even know what college he went to. But to me, he looks like someone that, he's got good touch around the rim. He's got good feel around the rim. Like he kind of knows where to be when he's rolling, that when he catches the ball, he knows how to finish. He knows where to finish instead of kind of passing it or catching and crashing, which is what a lot of bigs do when they don't really know where to be on the court. Like they don't feel out where people are around him. So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought defensively, I think he could be good. I don't think he's going to end up being some type of like monster rebounder or shot blocker, but he looks like he's going to be smart enough to contest shots at the rim. So I think he's going to end up a decent, he's like, to me, it's another guy kind of like Podziemski where it's, I think he's going to end up as maybe a solid average NBA player. Like that's probably the most likely scenario. The one thing I thought I was a little bit concerned about is he looks pretty stiff. He looked like he couldn't move around that well. It kind of runs around stiff, kind of like Looney. It might not matter. Kind of like Looney. Looney runs around super stiff, right? So that's the only thing. Oh, look at the comments are saying this.
Yeah, and our guy William Mitchell threw the comment out right as you were saying it. And just by the way, throw up comments, throw up super chats. We'll read them. We'll react to them, guys. We want to hear what you guys have to say. But he threw that out there. He goes, TJD looks stiff, maybe because the hamstring killed his conditioning, but was willing to screen and defend. That was my takeaway. Look, he missed all of Summer League with a hamstring tweak. They cleared him to play this final game. He's maybe practiced for 2 days. He looked like a guy who's like, you know what I'm not going to do? Pop my hammy.
Yeah.
I've watched him in college. He's a more explosive athlete than this. He's not Jordan Bell, but he got some moves. So it's just like, yeah, you know what it looks like when someone's like nursing something and it's like the number one thing they want to do is not hurt it. I think the thing, to your point, that stood out with me with him is like, okay, he is a little more 6'8" than 6'10", and
right.
He understands, like, the first or the second play they ran where he gets the ball rolling and he makes the second pass to the cutter on the baseline. I'm like, that's Warriors saw that on film and they're like, does he do this regularly? Because if he does, we want him right now.
Yeah.
That looks like a guy
Kuminga coming down the lane. What I mean? That's
Kuminga, Wiggins.
Yeah. Chris Paul.
Probably not. It's like it's a lot of guys in the Warriors who cut weak side that way. I've seen Moody doing that a little bit. I could see Clay will do that. Like
Yep.
Anyway, the point is that plays there, and it just having a big who can make the extra pass. I always feel like that's a defining quality of the Warriors system, where it's like it's not enough for you to defend and fight for rebounds. You got to make the extra pass because everything's about like relocation. If you're a guy who can find Steph relocating, you're on the floor. Looney has made a living, an underpaid living, out of rebound, find Steph and Clay relocating. That's all you gotta do.
Yep. I think that's probably the position the Warriors need less athleticism. Like that's a position where having a super athletic guy doesn't matter as much, because you don't. In the Warrior system, you don't care if your big can score 20 points or not. That's not the most important thing. Is Trayce Jackson-Davis going to be in 6-minute spurts? Is he going to be able to roll to the rim and get a layup? And is he be able to rebound the ball, defend a little bit, and then make the right pass, right? Like those are the only things that Warriors bigs are designed to do. None of it includes making a 12-foot jumper. It'd be nice if you can hit a 3, but that's not that important either, right? So we didn't see
going to have
him
to hit
shoot
all the big man threes this year.
most likely. I mean, even if they get a big with the 14th or 15th spot, it's probably not going to be like a super playable guy, right? So I liked him. I was probably more impressed with Trayce Jackson-Davis on first impression than I was with Podziemski. I'll say that.
Agreed. And like to your point, they got him number 57. Anyone you take in the second round or later, like just give me a rotation body. That's it. Even if it's not year one, and I think he has a chance to get in the rotation year one, but like you get Draymond's pie in the sky. Jokic is like once in a generation. Most of the time, if your second round pick turns into a dude who can give you 10 minutes a game, you're like, that's money. That's what I want. That's all I need.
That is all. I mean, that is gravy. I mean, anything you get in the second round. I do think a lot of these, I think we'll see in the next 10 years just on a broader level. Do you agree with me that I think a lot of players understand if they want to make a career in the NBA, if you know that you're not going to be a superstar, just hone your game to be like a Trayce Jackson-Davis or a 3-and-D wing where you know you're going to be able to play fit. You're not going to be a star, but you know you're going to be able to make the NBA because of that. And I do think like that, I don't know, I think that might help NBA players just make a lot more rosters as second rounders versus kind of
the smart guys figure that out. Alex Caruso had a quote. I'm pulling this up, and this might be my favorite quote because it relates. It says, "A big reason guys get stuck in the G League is because they don't realize the position they're trying for. It's like going for a job interview thinking you're going to be the CEO of the company. They're looking for someone to clean the bathroom. They're looking for janitors." And he's right. You know, like the Warriors had a lot of success with guys like JTA, Damian Lee, and GP2 out of the G League. You know what those guys do? They didn't go in there thinking Steph's here to set screens for me. They knew what their role was. They came in, they're like, I'm here to do the dirty work and get on the floor that way. And just to relate to that point, GP2 said like Caruso was really important for him to realize that like my pathway to the NBA is being the best slasher defender I can and stop trying to play point guard. Stop trying to, figure out how I can be a point guard in the NBA, figure out how I can be the best, kind of dirty work wing I can be. It's true.
That quote goes for a lot of people. I mean, it goes for everyone, but you watch the Warriors the last few years, right? Let's talk about Wiseman. Obviously he wanted to be more, was not going to be. Maybe he can't be. Warriors definitely didn't need him to be.
Still wants to be.
Still wants to be.
You watch him in summer league?
I do not. Good for Jabari Smith. He looks good. Kuminga had that issue a little bit, but Kuminga's talent enough. Like maybe Kuminga ends up better than what he is Sunday. I think Moses Moody knows. If he's going to be in this league, he has to do those 3-and-D things because he knows he doesn't have the upside. And then I think Jordan Poole is a little bit different of a situation. I think Jordan Poole was good enough. Like he is good enough. It just was weird. But I think now that question probably lies with Kuminga, man. Like that question is probably going to is Kuminga going to? Yeah,
that's legitimately. That's like they kept asking Kuminga like just slash rebound. Don't worry about anything else. You play, and in his head he's thinking I'm going to be Kawhi. I'm going to be the next Kawhi. Just give me the ball and clear out. Right, like. It sums it up for him. So I don't know. I was thinking that quote because I think it's really well said. And I think it's like you see a lot of guys with physical gifts and specific talents who just don't succeed because they don't understand that they're not Steph Curry on this team, that type of thing.
Or in any team. But yeah.
All right, easy layups in the mentions goes Pods made the Warriors pass on Cam Whitmore look really bad. And then HR says, why did we pass on Whitmore? He's a baller. I want to point out a couple things about Cam Whitmore, and I'm not even saying this is a negative thing. He was supposed to go in the top 10. He fell to 20. Medical red flag was a big reason. The consistent thing that's been reported, and this isn't some Sam sources thing, it's just public knowledge. His knees are apparently problematic. So, and then on top of it, he didn't interview well. His coach kind of talked shitty about him, which is it's a bad look for his college coach to talk about.
I was gonna say it kind of looks bad on the coach too. Not just,
it looks awful in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying any of those things are true, but the knee thing concerns me a little bit. The knee thing, it's like that sort of thing. But like, yeah, dude, he reminds me of Kuminga watching it. I'm just like he's a little smaller than I thought, honestly. He's like more like 6'5" than 6'8", but athletic wing and just the tools are there. And the one thing I will say that I want to say is like, look, those type of guys always stand out in summer league. Summer league's open gym, man. That's that type of thing, right? So it could look terrible for the Warriors. I'm not going to pretend it doesn't, but I'm not going to bury a pick on 4 summer league games.
Yeah, I'm with you. The one thing I find interesting, and maybe I'll point out, is I'm with you. They had some people, I had him in the top 5, so that tells me that 10 plus teams passed on him. So it wasn't just the Warriors; the Lakers passed on him too, which I find interesting. But he looked good. I mean, his shot looks really good. I mean, it looks better than like even Kuminga. Kuminga is probably a little more athletic. To me, it looks like maybe Kuminga's just bigger, but. The other thing is, I don't know. Do you need 2 of those guys on the team? Feels like if they had Cam Whitmore, maybe they'd have to come off with Kuminga. I don't know. Either way, maybe it doesn't look great, but it also doesn't look great for 10 plus other teams. I think there was a reason why he slid. It wasn't like he was the 14th overall likely pick, and then he fell like 4 picks. So it was he was thought Detroit might.
People thought Detroit might take him at 5, or he might go to Orlando at 6. So I tend to think it was health. I think the one thing no one wants to pick is a dude who's got potential issues, and like, who knows? Hopefully those red flags are wrong. But those things start getting shared. It is what it is. And then the chat's kind of reflecting what you're saying. Loose thoughts going, Kerr would not play his ass for 3 years. Bros, Kelly Oubre. I think what's true is there's 0 chance Kerr plays both him and Kuminga. One of those dudes is in the doghouse. Maybe both. But one of, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't give him 2 guys like that and expect both of them to have successful seasons. One of them is going to be struggling. So
then you have the Kerr conversation, but he's not going anywhere.
Hitman Chango's knees have an 8-year shelf life, long enough. Yeah, I mean, to your point, if he ends up being a dude who, it's fine till he's 30 and then the injuries hit, like, yeah, that's fine. Then it's successful. But I don't know. I'm just relaying.
So is he Kawhi?
Exactly.
No, right? So yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it's not just the Warriors who pass on; it's a bunch of teams. But we'll see. Yeah. It will, in 3 years, if he turns into the like next Kawhi, and Pods is still struggling and looks like a 4A player who should be playing in Europe, then we'll crush him. But right now, I'm not willing to go there.
Nope.
What was I going to say? All right. Want to do a couple quick hitters on Lester and Guy. Lester, I think he's going to end up on a 2-way. If someone doesn't steal him, I think he had a really good summer league. I think outside of the top picks, like the Jabari Smiths and like the guys who like the Chet types, I thought he looked really good. Like outside, those guys should have been playing.
They don't count.
I thought Lester looked awesome for most of summer league. He didn't really shoot. He didn't particularly look great tonight, but I think he, in general, looks like a guy who, if the Warriors have guard injuries, I feel pretty comfortable they could throw him out there.
You're a Leicester fan. I am too. I think end of the day, he's someone that maybe they can throw like a Damian Lee type. I think they can throw him out there in a pinch where it's mid-December, things are getting a little ugly. Maybe it's the Vegas tournament. Maybe some guys are out and they just throw him out there as a hey, let's get some energy in there. The way he talks, the way he talked about how he wants to be out there, he wants to lead. He knows now what makes him a good basketball player. It feels like he knows how to be a good role player, which is the perfect guy that the Warriors need at the end of the bench. I think he's under no impression that he's going to be a Jordan Poole in the league. So I'm with you. We'll see how he plays against NBA players, right? Because we've never seen him do that yet. A lot of dribbling from him in summer league. Obviously, he's not going to do any of that in the big league. So it's a little different.
Yeah, exactly. I think he can play off ball though. I think he shoots the ball. So
definitely.
So and he definitely competes on defense. So if anything, I think his shot's a little better than I expected. So you can go. And then Guy's the interesting one because so it has to be bought out of his contract. The Warriors can't really contribute a ton to it. So he might end up doing another year in Brazil, but like I remember watching him last year at Summer League. Like he's made some serious progress, and he's big for a wing. And he's only 21. Like it's hard to find 6'8" slashing wings who fight for rebounds like that and can hit an open shot. Like he's a little out of control, you know. But like that's defined as opposed to like usually what you're finding, which is 6'4". You know, guys who say they're 6'6", but they're really 6'4", 6'3.5", right?
Yeah. He's a big boy. That's a big boy.
Yeah.
He is a big boy. Not normally, I'm with you. Not normally someone the Warriors have too. Like I feel like the Warriors don't do a great job finding wings. I think they do a great job identifying guards. They do a decent job identifying some bigs as well. Obviously, Looney's the guy there. But they don't do a great job finding rotation depth wings. So maybe Guy Santos is part of it. I don't like his athleticism isn't elite, obviously, for someone that wasn't drafted in the first 2 rounds. But he plays really hard, like you said. Feel for the game is yeah, he's kind of nuts out there. He kind of just does crazy shit. Kind of reminds me of Varejao just because of the hair, which I think is funny.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm waiting to see on him, Sam. He didn't really jump off the page for me too much. Maybe he turns into a great shooter and figures it out, but I don't know if that's there either. So it'd be nice to see him in the G League because I know the Warriors get 3 two-way guys. So you think Lester Quinones is going to be one of them? You think Guy Santos is going to be the other one? And maybe they get one more.
I think he's making a case. I think it's a question of the contract stuff. I also I don't know if it's the worst thing in the world if he stays overseas one more year. You know, get to play regularly, pro ball at a pretty high level, probably a better level in the G League in terms of like learning how to play organized team basketball, not just like, you know. But
you don't like how G League Ignite plays? That's not a fan.
I don't know if the goal here is to make him a functional NBA player. It might be, but I don't know. We'll see. I will say I think he's an NBA player, and then whether it's this year or in 2 years, like he looks like a guy who can have a multi-year career as a wing who helps teams. Like looks better than Chetty Osman, but same type of player. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of thing. And it's like, look, man, that's found money. You picked him 55 last year. If he can be in your rotation, that's cool. You did like those are the type of finds that they traditionally have not been able to get. Yep. So, you know, I'll live with that.
Yep. The more wing depth, the better. But you know, they've got 2 wings that have got to figure it out this year. That's for sure. 2 lottery wings too. That got to figure it out. Only one
for sure. We got a couple Steph Curry quotes today I want to get to before we get out of here.
Yes.
This is what really matters.
I've been waiting all night.
The GOAT speaking. The biggest thing, everyone comes to camp with the right mindset of just trying to win. We've got to talk it, live it out, and understand the time frames of our career. Nobody's got time to waste in terms of energy and other things trying to go.
Wow. He sound annoyed to you?
Yeah, he sounds like someone who's not even trying to hide what he
Yep.
thinks the biggest issue last year was. I think he thinks they could have repeated last year if certain players' heads were in a different space.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's the first time, though, I think hearing Steph, you know how boring Steph is in interviews. He's just such a snoozer. But I think for the first time this offseason, you're seeing him, I think, show a little more, peel back the curtain a little more, create a little more urgency. I think leading by, I mean, kind of, I wouldn't call this leading. This is very LeBron James-esque. This is very like, I'm going to say some stuff in the media that I know is going to go viral, that's going to get into, this is going to get to Clay, right? This is going to get to Chris Paul. This is going to get to these guys. And I'm the big dog, right? I'm going to say what I want, and you guys better fall in line. Now, I don't think Steph is ever going to be like absolutely like that. But, I mean, from the comments, Steph's attitude is this is what the Warriors need, man. This is I guess TK wrote about this. This is how he's been acting since Game 7, since he had that speech after Game 6.
Fed up.
Just
fed the fuck up with everyone's bullshit. And you know what? I can't blame him. He put together another MVP season. If we're being honest, he should have 5 MVPs. Maybe, no one other than him or LeBron should have really won an MVP in the last 12 years. Mm-hmm. No, Giannis deserved the one he got.
I mean, Giannis and Jokic are pretty sweet.
Yeah, okay, sorry, Jokic too. Mostly, he should have most MVPs. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Definitely 4 Finals MVPs.
This media awards, it's irrelevant.
Yeah.
My point here is he's just like, enough. We can win another title if everyone's locked in day one, and we're going to do that. And I think that's part of the calculus he's banking on with someone like Chris Paul. He's like, look, man, he may not like coming off the bench, but that dude wants to win, and he has never won a title. We're going to get him there,
I'm going to get him there.
Yeah, pretty much.
I am going to get him there. Like, hey, Chris, we're not, and I think Chris Paul probably. He'll probably understand, right? Maybe I'm too optimistic now. Maybe I got the rose tinted glasses on, but I do feel like, and you've talked about this. At some point, Chris is going to sit there and say, "Do I want to just bitch and moan and then get traded to the Wizards,
my 18th team?"
Yeah, or not to the Wizards. They just got him from the Wizards. Well, get traded to, I don't know, throw in a team for me, Orlando, whatever, right? And just win 38 games next season and mess around at age 38, or am I going to buy in and actually try to win a championship? And someone like Chris Paul feels like probably wants to win.
Yeah. And I also think if they get off to a good start, he's not the type, he's not the type to go complain. Like, we're 8-2, but I have some beef, coach. He's not that type. He's the type to go say something if they're 4-6, be like, maybe we should try me in the lineup.
I wouldn't, and he might be right. If they are 4-6,
if they start that bad, he's going to have a case. So that's why I keep coming back to it. Start hot, and you don't have to worry about any of the drama. Yeah, exactly. He had another interesting quote that I want to share about Kuminga. Curry clearly expects the Warriors to keep Kuminga, and he expects a lot of them this year. It's a challenge to figure out how to elevate your game and also fit within a system and what makes a winning team, Curry said. I know JK is working hard this summer and trying to take the necessary steps to be part of a winning rotation. All the nuances you have to learn. What's your read?
I think he's trying to instill some confidence in him. I think the Warriors have been I think they've been pretty harsh on Kuminga publicly. I don't think they've ever said anything that great about it. I think part of it is he doesn't really need the bullshit media platitudes. Right?
He doesn't need Fitz's voice going up 8 octaves when he touches the ball.
Yeah, he doesn't need a nickname, right? You're right, exactly. He doesn't need people to gas him up. The kid's got a ton of confidence. He's wearing shades indoors next to Steph in Vegas. I know the type of guy he is. I love it. But it does it feels like, though, when someone like him is in trade talk so often, it's rough. It's rough. And he was in trade talks all offseason. I think this is part of Steph saying, hey, I believe in you. We believe in you. We want you to be here. Want you to be. I mean, he said something pretty important there, though. He says, figure out how to elevate your game and fit within the system and what makes a winning team. That's not that sentence there is not like, hey, figure out how to be a great player. It's figure out how to be a great player for this team, right? And that seems pretty important to me. Like, I don't think Steph is saying that. Like, I think Jonathan Kuminga is going to figure out how to do a dribble hezzy pull up. Like, that's not what Steph cares about, right? So, you know,
No, I agree with you, and it's like you said, he has all the confidence in the world, but he's human. You kind of like shit on him by yo-yoing him out of the rotation, putting him in trade talks. He's eventually just going to be like, I'm done, you know? So I read this a little as Steph just being like, I think you can be a key player. I think you can be a closing lineup player if you work at it, you know? Like, there's nothing stopping you but you, that type of stuff, right? Like, just trying to instill it in him a little bit. And to the point, like, yeah, I kind of do think he's the most important player because he's the only guy on their roster who has a physical profile similar to Iguodala or Wiggins or Harrison Barnes. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be Wiggins or Iguodala next year, but he could be Harrison Barnes. And they desperately need another 6'8", 6'7", 7-foot wingspan wing who can do everything because this team, the IQ is higher, but their athleticism, it's borderline. It's borderline, you know, like Wiggins an athlete, but like anyone else playing, they're more of like a think it instead of like athleticism. So I think everything this season comes down to like, is Kuminga going to figure out a way to be a guy in the rotation, or are they going to?
Yeah, it's a lot of Rudy Gay. It's a lot of Rudy Gay.
Yeah. I don't need a lot, and that's just, it's too old, it's too slow. It's exactly like why they ended up losing to the Lakers, like that sort of. So you just need a guy who could be like, oh, you're gonna guard Steph, I'm gonna dunk it all game.
Well, they might have been too dumb too against the Lakers. Like it was a lot of stuff. I definitely think not being athletic is one of it. They definitely raise the team IQ, but you're right. I mean, if Kuminga doesn't figure it out, this is not a. It's not like the Warriors were that athletic in 2015 to 19. But they were just better. Like the guys Clay and Draymond were just better.
They were not that athletic, but they had key athletic pieces that fit it, just like completed lineup. Like Harrison Barnes was young. He wasn't like the smartest guy in the rotation, but he could do just enough to complete a lineup. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So I think it's important for them to it's all about that balance. They need IQ. They need shot making, but they also need a certain dose of athleticism. They don't need all athletes, which is what they went for last year, which was horrendous. They just need like enough functional athleticism to make lineups work.
They do need Kuminga. They're not asking Kuminga to be the smartest guy on the court, you know, but they do need him to break out. It's kind of hyperbole, Sam, but I do think I don't know if they can win a championship if he doesn't take a real leap. Like a true real, like I am the 8th man, 7th man, 6th man, up 6th man, right, total on the team. Like I don't know if they can win a championship unless he becomes that guy. He needs to be the guy where next season, we're gonna throw Kuminga on LeBron for like 20 minutes. And he's just gonna be fine. And LeBron's like 40, dude. Like we're not talking about prime LeBron. Right? Like we're just gonna throw Kuminga on Kevin Durant. For 8 minutes,
agree with you. Unless they make some crazy roster move, if he falls out of the rotation in the playoffs next year, I don't think they can get it done.
No.
If he's a 20-minute per game guy and everything else falls into place, kind of intrigued.
Yeah,
I think it can happen. We're gonna end it on that. We'll be back. Appreciate all of you. Have a great evening.